You want to hear about the time when Jamie Madrox died and I had to get him out of hell? But to my surprise, he had every serial killer standing side by side, and they were all singing along to We Don't Die. What's up, everyone? I'm Trey Baird. This is Magic Ninja Monday, and we're checking out The Darkness by Twiztid. So check this out right after the intro. It is Magic Ninja Monday here on the Swollen Thumb Entertainment channel, and we're checking out the Twiztid album, The Darkness. Come on, get out of there. There we go, got it. The Darkness by Twiztid. Now, right off the bat, you know, this was a highly anticipated album because this was Twiztid's full-length debut after leaving Psychopathic and starting up Magic Ninja Entertainment. And on a side note, people have been clamoring for Twiztid to do an album of straight dark stuff for a long time. Now, did this satisfy the need for such an album? In my opinion, yes and no. Now, Twiztid always makes it a point to go left when you expect them to go right. They try not to be too predictable, but they also want to please their fan base. And in some ways, for me as a fan, they answered the call, but in other ways, not so much. And we'll get into that. First, let's check out this. I mean, the packaging as always is totally epic. Awesome, 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 awesome. Of course, what's interesting about this is the Masonic imagery is very prevalent on this release. Just like, you know, it's been for a long time. And of course, you can speculate why that is. It's an artistic touch, but, you know, what was the inspiration behind the Masonic imagery? Who knows? You know, it's my personal belief that Twiztid are Masons, just like every other successful artist in this genre. ICP, Esham, they're all Masons. And I think that's a big part of what fuels their success. But that's borderline conspiracy theory, and that's a topic for a video for another day. You got the back of your, you know, cover with your track listing. Sleeve cover comes off, and got more of this with a very, basically, you know, this is like, it's been done before, but they're instructions for a seance. And it was done, it ties into the theme of the album, particularly the end of the album. But it's been done before on the original Dark Lotus album. So makes me think that maybe it was Twiztid's idea to do that. You open it up, very much blue color scheme. And you have your very similar looking designs on the CD and behind the CD. Pull out the booklet, and what you get is a poster. And I always love it when they, you know, I like to have my CD inserts, but it's nice to have the option. Like, maybe you're more of a, you know, put all your CDs in a booklet type of person, assuming that you're a CD type of person in the first place in the year 2019. But anyway, it's nice to have that poster. And hey, maybe the poster will sell you on the CD even if you wouldn't have gotten it anyway. And then you have the back, which is also something of a poster. And it has all the information out at the bottom, which makes it almost like a movie poster. But, you know, this is epic. This is quality artwork right here. It almost has like a churchy feel to it, but it's, you know, evil and dark. So pretty cool. So we're going to get into my feelings on the album itself. I put it back in the sleeve incorrectly, but to be honest with you, I might like this better. You know, they might have designed it that way. Maybe if you want Jamie in there instead of Paul, there you go. Whatever, I'm gonna leave it like that. So we're gonna get into my feelings on each individual track with a numerical rating of 1 to 10. Then we'll give my feelings on the album as a whole, numerical rating 1 to 10, which isn't necessarily an average of the scores, because an album can be more than the sum of its parts. Can also be less than the sum of its parts. It just really depends. And we'll get into that here. So, you start with your intro. Why won't you answer? And this intro drags. It goes on and on and on. It's the answering machine for a psychiatrist, and it's a patient being played by Jamie Madrox, who is just suffering, who is at his wit's end, saying he needs help. Why aren't you here for me? I need you to answer. I'm going crazy. I'm losing my sanity. And seeing as how this album is kind of paced like a horror movie, I mean, it works. It's good. But as I said, the intro just goes on and on and on and on. It wouldn't have offended me if the intro was literally half the running time that it is. But, you know, it is what it is. And considering what they were going for, I get it. You know, it's not your traditional album. Like I said, it's a concept album. It's almost like a horror movie on wax. And it's not even the first time Twiztid has done that concept. You know, they did it before with Wicked. In my opinion, you know, they're about equal. This one has its pros and cons, and Wicked has its pros and cons. Anyway, moving right along. Afraid of the Dark. And this one is also an intro, but it's a musical intro. And I like this intro. Wouldn't have hurt my feelings if this had been the only intro, but like I said, I would have preferred that they just left the answering machine skit at the beginning considerably shorter and then gone into this intro. It's kind of funny the way they do it. You know, the intro is not that dark. It's almost comical. It's upbeat and sort of bouncy. But I think they do that so as to contrast, give you like, it's almost like a palate cleanser before you move into the dark stuff on the next track. So with all of that in mind, I mean, if I was judging the track on its own, I would give it a lower grade. But seeing as how it sets up the rest of the album, I give it an 8 out of 10. So, In Hell. This is probably my favorite track on the album, and is why I referenced this track in the intro. You have Monoxide with the first verse, and he sets the tone as like, you want to hear the time when Jamie Madrox died, and you're like, ooh, that's where we're going with this album. Okay, because Wicked ended with the duo In Hell, and it's kind of poetic. It rhymes. It's poetic, as George Lucas would say. That this album begins with the duo In Hell getting out, and so it's sort of like, you know, they live to tell the tale sort of thing. Like I said, I like this track. Monoxide starts it off slow and creepy, and then, you know, we go into the chorus, and then boom, Jamie Madrox comes out with that chopper style, and it just does not slow down after that. And I like the chorus. I like the layers of the chorus. It works for me. So 9 out of 10, easily. You know, Back to Hell. Now we're getting into this new style that Twiztid has been experimenting with since leaving Psychopathic. This, you know, emo / rock / heavy metal type of stuff that they've been doing, and it's not always my cup of tea. And this time, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. And It might just be because it follows a track that I really like, but it's mediocre, but not bad. I give it a 6 out of 10. Problems with medication. It's another skit. All of the skits on this track, for the most part, follow the answering machine format. So they're really, none of them stand out. They're really not even worth commenting on. So moving forward, that's about all I'm going to say about it. Then we go into A Little Fucked Up, which was their lead single on this track. And it kind of has that exploitation, gritty, old school horror feel to it. Like, I don't mean like old school, I mean like, 70s and maybe early 80s era, when horror was still underground. It wasn't mainstream and wasn't for everyone. And like I said, that's kind of that's the vibe you get from it. And lyrically, everything is on point. The beat is solid, but it just, for me, it's a swing and a miss. It's okay. It's I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. And for a while I was wondering, maybe I've just grown apart from this style. But since then, Twiztid has put out other similar tracks that just hit super hard, and I'm all about these more modern tracks. So it's not for me. It's not really my jam. So I'm gonna say a 6 out of 10. So Boogie Man is up next, and it comes with a skit, but it's a part of the track itself. It's not a separate skit. So it's not the answering machine format. It's a mother telling a horror story, bedtime horror story to her kid, trying to scare the kid before bedtime. And it kind of works on a philosophical level, social commentary. Like, why do we tell such horrifying stories to our children to entertain them? Look at the Grimm brothers fairy tales. They're all horrific. In the original versions at least. Some modern versions of these fairy tales have been cleaned up. But this is sort of touching on the fact that, historically we've always tried to scare the shit out of our little kids. And it's an exaggeration, but it's not much of one. It's not much of an exaggeration. As for the track itself, this is more along the lines of what I was expecting from an album from Twiztid that was like all dark. It's more traditional rap, but it's also experimental. And the video that they put out for this song is very creepy. And the video made me like the song a little more. This kind of thing happens all the time, You hear a song, you think it's okay, but then the video comes out, it's like, okay, I see what they were going for, and that's what happened here. It's still, it's still not the greatest, though. I'd say a 7 out of 10. Next up is Down Here, and this was a track where Monoxide gets a little personal, talks about his time with Psychopathic, and it's obvious that that's what he's talking about. He doesn't name anyone by names, but if you're at all familiar with his history and what they've been through, you know what they're talking about. And the type of stuff that caused a lot of drama between the two camps before they officially parted ways and split for good. A lot of shit talking. The track itself is pretty good. It's depressing, but at this point, that shouldn't really be much of a shock. This album is going to be depressing, and that shouldn't be surprising. So 8 out of 10. Dr. Weasel is another answering machine skit. Nothing remarkable. Moving right along. FTS, which, you know, everyone's pretty sure stands for fuck this shit. And it's like a mosh pit style riot anthem type of song. And, you know, it kind of picks up the pace of the album a little bit, gets things moving, more high energy. It's a good track. I mean, it's not super memorable, but I mean, it's not necessarily supposed to be. It's sort of like, you know, I don't want to say filler, because the word filler has a bad connotation, but it's sort of like it bridges the, you know, A-tier songs together, and gives something in between them. And it accomplishes that very well. So 7.5 out of 10. You know, Take It Away is more of the same, but not necessarily in a bad way. You know, we're past the midway point of the album. We're in the second act. We're keeping it moving, and it's, you know, depressing song. It's, you know, not uplifting at all, and it's dark and, you know, sad, basically. Not emo crying sad, but just, you know, despair, hopeless type of sad. And I don't really know what else to say about it. You know, it's a good track. Just not super memorable, which is a consistent thing nowadays for Twiztid. I feel like their earlier stuff, you know, they kind of focused on making singles, whereas their later stuff, they're more concerned about making a cohesive whole and not really, you know, hyper focus on making each individual track memorable. And this approach has pros and cons. I mean, it would have been cool if they'd done it the other way around, when people bought albums more than they do now. Nowadays, you know, it's the era of the single, but maybe it's that way by design. Maybe they're trying to take it back to an era that is dying a slow, painful death, and they're just reliving this for the people who want it. At any rate, you know, I don't remember if I gave this track a rating, but I'm going to say 7 out of 10. On and on. You know, sound like a broken record, but dark, depressing, sad, but a little bit more uplifting. It's twisted, like the name implies. It's one way, but it's also another way. And everything's all, you know, just all weird, all not what you would expect, but just slightly different. And I like this track. It's one of my favorite ones, especially because, you know, the last few tracks before this, you know, were above average, and I think that On and On brings it back up to a higher level. So I'm going to give it an 8.5. No breaks. And this is where we're sort of emerging from the darkness. This one is like, you know, it almost doesn't even fit on the album, but I think, you know, considering where the album goes after this, I think that a track like No Breaks serves a purpose. It's sort of like the climax. It's sort of like, okay, enough is enough. Let's just throw in one track where we're doing the old school, almost Beastie Boys like hip-hop style. And the name implies, you know, no breaks. There's no chorus, no hook. There's nothing really to sing along to except for the very end. And, you know, I like this track. I didn't like it at first. I didn't even like it that much when the video came out, but it got into my soul, and it just kind of grew on me slowly and ever so slowly. Now I bumped the crap out of this track. I like this track. Fuck am I doing in a relationship when I've been fucking every girl that she's been hanging with? That cracks me up. It's just stream of consciousness. There's no theme to the track. It's just like random thoughts that they had, that they put together to a beat and make it rhyme, and it works. It's pretty cool. Originally, I would have given this track like a 4 or 5 out of a 10, but now that it's grown on me, I'm gonna say it's an 8 out of 10. After that, you have Seance, and in the past, I've said that, in this genre, you have the uplifting tracks at the end of an album, and it's borderline cliche. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even say it's borderline cliche. It is full-on cliche. It's a cliche that ICP sort of started, and every artist in this genre has mostly followed. It's like you have some of the most dark, depraved stuff on the album, and then you get to the end and you have this motivational, uplifting song at the end so that you leave the album feeling good. I mean, I get why they do it, but here's the thing. I respect an artist who does something different, who goes against the grain and tries things a little different, and this is a case where anytime an artist finishes an album differently, even if it's a swing and a miss, I still respect them for taking the swing. For me, this was a swing and a miss. Now, I feel like this is, an unpopular opinion because I've heard a lot of praise for this song, Seance. It's just, I'm not feeling it. I'm sorry. I'm just not. It's a very simple, it has like a humming vocal behind it as like the melody. Then you have this boom, this really deep, kick drum almost going on. So the track bumps. But what really does it for me is I don't like the chorus. Like, I don't like it at all. I don't say this very often, but the chorus sucks. And like I said, I hate to say it because I understand where they were going with this album, with this track, and I want to like it, I just don't. And, let's just group this together. The Exorcism is technically a skit, but it's sort of a continuation of the Seance. And all it is just a bunch of sound effects. It's like, the sound effects from the movie The Exorcism. And, it's meant to continue the song Seance. The track itself is the actual Seance, and then the Exorcism is the aftermath. And boom, that's the end of the album. That's how they decide to close it out. So, I mean, it's poetic. It's creatively, it's cool. But as far as how I would rate it, for me, generously, 5 out of 10. And honestly, I should probably go lower than that. Like I said, I'm not feeling it. But if you like it, more power to you. Nothing against it. It's just not my style is all. Technically, that's the end of the album. Maybe you're listening to it on vinyl, and that's the end. Or, I don't know, maybe the digital version ended there too, probably. I forget, all these things. There's always different versions, and everything's different. I lose track. But the CD version comes with 3 additional tracks. And all 3 of these tracks were bangers on the internet. And I could have very easily bought the album for just these 3 tracks. But there's a catch. Which, I'll just go ahead and name the catch right now. Even though we're about to talk about Breakdown, the catch is A Place in the Woods. And the original Place in the Woods is like top tier. A top shelf Twiztid. Like, not just for the Magic Ninja era, but for their entire career. Place in the Woods is one of the most epic tracks they've ever created in their entire career. Like, it's so good. I got it on vinyl. The single. I got the single on vinyl, and I don't buy vinyl very much. Like, I'm not a collector, but it's so good I had to have it on vinyl, just for posterity. And they did a remix They did a remix of the song for this album. That's so disappointing. But we'll get to that. Next up, Breakdown. Great track. They did a video for it, before the album came out. And it's a weird psychedelic, almost Salvador Dali type stuff. And great track. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it, see it right after this video. Breakdown by Twiztid. So good. So good. And don't lose anything at all by just listening to it on CD. It's just as good even without the video. 9 out of 10. Mind Goes Mad. Still very solid. Not as good. But not much to say about it really. So 7 out of 10. And then you have A Place in the Woods, which I've already talked about. Now, one of my things, and I know I've said this before in other videos, I try not to let expectations get in my way of going into, critiquing something with an open mind, with a clean slate. It's very difficult to do here because the original version of A Place in the Woods is so good. And just the fact that this isn't the original version makes me want to hate it. Well, the more I sit and think about it, the more, I try to judge it on its own merits. I'm sorry, it's still not good. The lyrics were written to the original beat, which was very dark, very creepy, and that piano is just perfect. And then you have the bass like da da doo doo da da doo 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 boom boom boom. And oh my god, I get chills every time I hear it. It's so good. And the version on this CD is not good. Like, the remix beat does not go with the lyrics. Like especially Blaze's verse. Blaze has this slow, it makes me think of like Leatherface, just this half retarded like flow, but not in a bad way. And it's hard to explain, but it works for the original beat, but it doesn't do him any service for this beat. It just makes him sound like he doesn't know what he's doing, and that sucks because Blaze is a veteran in this industry, and he deserves better. But whatever. So judging the track, the remix track on its own merits, not comparing it to the far superior original version, 3 out of 10. Judging it compared to what, they could have just put the original track on there, and the original track is long. Maybe they didn't have room for it. I forget how long the running time for the CD is, but if it wouldn't have fit, cut something else. I'm serious. Cut one of those answering machine skits to put the original OG version of this track on there. Because now, for posterity, people are going to go and be like, A Place in the Woods, that track is not good. That's whack. It's like, no, man, listen to the original version. Don't listen to that bastardized remix. But whatever. And going into my, final numerical rating for the entire album, the fact that we end on that note taints the entire experience. The album has a weak beginning and the album has a weak ending, but it shines in a few places. So, judging the entire album as a whole, I can't be too rough on it because there's some classics on here, but there's a lot of... the highs are not that high. Like, my favorite track, as I said, is In Hell. And that's at the very beginning. So for me, it's just downhill. And, it goes down, maybe comes back up a little bit, but it keeps going down and down. Then you hit A Place in the Woods and it goes woo. You can't even see how far down I'm going. Like, I'm touching the floor. That's where it goes. it's just so disappointing. But enough dilly-dally. As far as judging the entire album as a whole, 6 seems a little low, but 7 seems a little high. Let's call it a 6.5 and call it a day. Twiztid goes on to bigger and better things though after this, so nothing to be butthurt about. Anyway, that concludes my review for The Darkness by Twiztid. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check back every day for daily content on this channel. That's right, daily. That's how we're doing it now. Peace out, everyone. Take care.